Hey everybody, Lazy Gardener here. Today I want to talk about support structures. It's fall 2021 and I've removed a lot of the plants from the garden and I've exposed the support structures I use. I think now is a great time to kind of just do a quick video and show you what I use to support my plants. The purpose of the support, especially when you're using raised beds, is to grow three-dimensionally, to get the plants to go up, so you're really giving your garden more space for free. So hopefully in the future I'll do an individual video about the various things I'm going to show you, and if that's the case there'll be links in the description below and perhaps even above. But let's get into it and let's go see the support structures I use around the garden. Okay, first I just want to show you what I do about my tomatoes. So this is one of my tomato boxes this year. You'll see, especially around the garden, you'll see I use a lot of PVC as support structure, but I also use tomato cages and some other things that I'll show you piece by piece. This here I call a tomato wrap. It goes around the outside of the tomatoes and it will hold the tomatoes in. It's modular, it's super cheap to put together, it's easy, doesn't require a lot of measurements, it can be raised up and go higher. Why don't we take a look at it just real quick, but you'll see that the function of it is to basically keep the tomatoes inside the box. And without having to come repeatedly tying them up as the season goes on. Inside and individually for the tomatoes, I use what I call a double stack tomato cage. I will link to a video up here on how I do that, but by doubling up the tomato cages and using a stake, you can see that I'm able to get to about 7 feet in height. And then at the end of the season, these tomato cages, these tomato wraps will come down and they'll disassemble and they'll turn into these garden rails over here, which I'll talk more about. And there'll just be a few pieces left over for storage. So it works out really great. The purpose of the railings is to hold various plants from falling out of the boxes. All my boxes now have railings, but really they're most important for things like potatoes and beans. All right, let's look at the next thing. I want to show you where I grew my pumpkins this year. That's this box. I grew pumpkins, spaghetti squash, and butternuts all in this box. You can do that. Maybe I'll put up a picture of my harvest, this works really well. It's very, very simple. I know all over the internet people are using cattle panels that are like 16 feet by 8 feet. They're huge, they're very bulky and hard to get delivered. I don't really have any way of getting them, but this is a really easy and simple solution. I get 50 feet of this vinyl coated wire. I think it's called chicken wire. And you just use some wire snips and you can cut it to size. And I use these thick metal poles to kind of hold it in. And if you see here, I kind of just used 4 of these in almost like a fan shape. And then in between the fans, I used these tomato cages. And this is all the support that they need. A lot of times I do like to grow a thing like pumpkins up against the fence so that they can use the fence back there as well. But this is pretty basic and really simple and really works. Okay, this is my cucumber box. I've already disassembled quite a bit of it. I needed to get access to the box. I want to put some manure in here, but what I had here was just several double stacked tomato cages. As I told you earlier in my tomato boxes, I had those here where the cucumbers were and in that space. So there was about, I think about 5 double stacked tomato cages here between these two. And then these were in case there was overflow after what was here came out. I put these in and the cucumbers were able to continue on over there. Again, just these vinyl coated wiring with the poles in it. All right, the next one I'm going to show you has beans growing in it. I haven't cleaned them out yet. The frost has just killed them. But actually, this is really good for showing you what's going on over here. First of all, this is kind of a different riff on the vinyl coated, what I call these cages, stacked up. Instead of using those expensive steel rebar poles, I'm using PVC. Now, the PVC by itself would not be enough, but instead what I've done is I've created this kind of frame on the top. This is glued together because otherwise the pressure will pull it apart. These poles are not glued in, but this will just come off and the whole structure can come out and collapse down. This is not what I like to grow my beans in. Now you'll say you see beans growing in here, and let me explain. This is what I use to grow peas. This works fantastic for peas, And what happened is after the peas were out, I had to plant something here, and beans were the most convenient thing to place in here. And so this will obviously work just great with beans. I've even been able to succession plant my peas with tomatoes, and tomatoes will grow great in here. And if you wanted some extra side support, you can just throw some PVC pipe through here. So there's just a lot you can do with this. The reason I don't normally like to grow beans, and I'll show you the beans in a second, what I normally use is something I call bean scaffolding, is that this is really hard to clean the beans out of. You can see that they thread themselves all the way up this stuff, and even when these die back, it will require pulling it out everywhere, and it's very difficult to clean off. The other way I do them is much easier, but it works. It works great, and so there's no reason not to do it if that's what I want to plant here as beans. I wouldn't bother changing it out. This is another one I'm really proud of. I call this bean scaffolding. This here is 2 of these devices. If you can see here, they're actually just linked together with this vinyl coated wiring. By putting the vinyl wiring horizontally instead of vertically over there, the beans, see, grow in between them, and they just come right off. It's just super easy to clean because, again, if you'll see that, the majority of the beans are not tangled in here, and they come off really easy. This also is fantastically easy to put in and to support. Like I said, I really should do a video on this, and I will, but you can see it just takes 2 vinyl wires, and this will support 7 feet worth of beans. It's actually less material than the other one. I will say again, though, that these middle horizontal sections are glued together because the pressure sometimes will pull them apart. But this works just great for beans. And again, it's modular. I can take this out of this box. These 2 will come apart. There'll be 2 individual things. I will store them in the back. And you could even collapse it if you wanted to take it apart pretty easily. I normally just leave them standing up back in the back in the composter area, and they'll just sit there, and they don't even seem to degrade. The PVC will last forever, and this is just a really, really great use for beans, and I think this would even work with cucumbers and some other stuff as well. All right, that was my video on support structures. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment below on what kind of support structures you use, or if you want to see a video about one of these support structures you want to see first. What we'll do is we'll throw up a couple of links to some playlists, and don't forget to like if you like the video and subscribe. Thank you very much for over 200 subscribers. The channel's growing really fast. I enjoy making these videos, and I'm going to keep doing it. And that's my video. So good luck and good gardening.